Hello everybody, welcome back. Okay, so for those who've just joined, or if you didn't hear me before, I am Daniel Rowe, one of the international office team here at Plymouth University. Welcome aboard, thanks for attending our event today. This is a webinar designed to help you prepare to do all you need to do to get on that plane and get over to the United Kingdom and get to Plymouth and get settled in and get started with your studies. It's really an opportunity also for you to hear a few voices, see a few faces, meet a few people who work at the university, in case when you see us on campus you want to ask us any questions, or of course you can ask us questions right now. Anything that you need to do to get yourself ready to get to Plymouth. So this is going to take approximately 45 minutes, as I said. It might take a bit longer depending on your questions. If you have had the chance to look and see where on your phone or on your laptop or your tablet you can ask a question to us, that's great. You can send those questions at any time. We will probably take those questions, store them, and then at the end of the presentation part we'll then deal with those questions. However, if there's a really important question that comes up that we think, wow, we should have said this earlier, maybe I forgot to say something, then my colleague Josh will probably pass that question to me and I'll deal with it straight away. So let's get started. I think it's about time to get on with the presentation. What are we going to actually cover today? Well, first of all, we're going to meet the presenters. We're going to tell you what we'll do in the presentation, about questions, and then how you can see this again. So, as I said, meet the presenters. I'm Daniel. You can see that's me on the screen, but you can also see on the PowerPoint that's me when I didn't have the shave. My colleague just underneath my picture is Joshua. Joshua Burt also works in the international office, and huge thanks to Josh. He's sat in the room, hiding in the corner, making sure all the technology for this works. So huge thanks to Josh. In addition, I have two more colleagues from the International Student Advice Office on board. We have Kath and Angie sitting in the room, and they will also make sure that I tell you the right stuff regarding any visa application questions you might have, but also about the services that they offer you when you're here, not just before arriving, but when you arrive. It's a very important office. So you'll see them in Plymouth, but you can actually see them in the photograph on the slide on your screens now. They are the two on the right of the picture, Kath and Angie. Then in the middle of the picture you'll see a wonderful lighthouse. That is Smeaton's Tower. You'll be very, very familiar with that beautiful icon of Plymouth when you're here. And in front of that you see 5 students who are part of our Malaysian Society here in Plymouth. And 3 of those members are on the call again with you today. So actually you're really lucky, guys, because you've got 3 students from the Plymouth Malaysian Student Society taking part in this call to give you a flavour of what student life is from their point of view, and of course to answer any questions that you might have specific to them. So on board today we have Rosanna and Matt and Dylan, and you will hear from them at a part of the presentation, and of course you can ask questions to them as well as to us. Okay, so that's who we are. So what we will cover today is basically, as I mentioned, pre-departure information, some practical stuff, some things you need to think about to make sure you can be ready to board that plane, and what you do when you get off the plane as well. And then we will also cover this student life aspect. How you can see this again, well, we are actually recording this webinar, so a copy of the recording can be made available to you or to pass to a friend or family member who wants to see it later, so you can watch it again at any time. Okay, so that's what we will do. Don't forget, keep those questions coming in at any time. So the big one, the visa, when to apply? Well, the obvious answer is ASAP, as soon as possible. It's relatively busy time of year for visa applications at this time of year, so certainly make sure you get everything that you can ready in good time so that your visa application is not unnecessarily delayed. Many of you will already be at the point where you have applied for your visa or you're just about to. Some of you might not be at that point yet if you still had some academic conditions to meet. So it's important that you do meet those conditions as soon as possible. So this next slide shows you a little bit what we actually mean here. Well, you apply when you have an unconditional place, an offer at the university. So that means you've met all your academic conditions and you've paid your tuition fee deposit, which is a minimum of £2,000. Now, this is perhaps no surprise to you. You should have heard of this already from your communications with our admissions team, so none of this should be too surprising, but this is just a reminder for those who have not yet reached that stage or completed that stage. Okay, you also have to submit a precast checklist so that the admissions team know everything that they need to know ahead of issuing the CAS. And what is a CAS, by the way? Just in case you don't know, a CAS is a confirmation of acceptance to study, which is effectively your electronic visa letter. It's the thing you need to ensure that you can make your visa application successfully. You also should be aware to prepare documents you may need as part of your visa application. And what are those? Well, obviously, one of the most important ones is a passport. You can't be going anywhere without that. And make sure it is valid, in date, that is not about to expire in the next 6 months. So make sure it's in date. In fact, most of your students or your agents who have advised you will say that you should have a passport valid for the duration of your degree. You don't have to, you can renew, but it might be easier to do that. So some students have recently just applied for a full passport starting now. Anyway, once you've got your passport and you've got your CAS, you may need to show in your visa application certain other documents. So it could be your original academic documents that you used in your application. So anything from your high school or college or university that was in your application that you were admitted because of, you should have those original documents to hand in case you're asked to submit in your visa application. Additionally, bank statement or proof of funding is something that you may well be asked to submit. It's not required that you will always be asked for this, but you should definitely prepare. Now, when we're talking about preparing funding, we generally advise that you are preparing tuition fee for the whole academic year of study. So if you're coming for a master program or final year of a bachelor program, then of course it's effectively all your tuition fee. But if you're coming for a first year or second year of a bachelor program, then it's only that first year fee that you need to prepare at this stage, not the whole degree. But you should prepare that funding minus anything you've already paid. If you've paid the deposit, you should understand that that's already been paid, so you don't have to prepare the full fee. And if you've been awarded any scholarship, that also reduces the amount of tuition fee preparation you need to make. Then, of course, you do need to think about living costs. So we tend to advise the minimum of the figure that you can see on the screen, the 9,135 British pounds. That's based on the UKVI's guidance for students who are living in not London, who are outside London. It's higher for the London rate because London is more expensive. So it's quite a good guideline for Plymouth. I think our students can give more advice on that during their presentation, or you can ask us questions. It really depends on your lifestyle as to how much you'll end up spending, but preparing that as a minimum is a very surefire way to make sure there's not going to be an issue with your visa application. This is the important bit. It's all important, of course, but this is very important to remember. Please don't finalize your ticket bookings until you know you've got your passport and your visa back, because if there is a delay, you might mean that you've paid for a flight that you cannot take. So that's important. So just make sure you're doing things in the right order. Maybe hold a flight, but don't pay for it and book it. And the other thing is, if you are going to be late, if you're going to arrive later than the orientation or arrivals date that we expect you to be here, and we'll tell you that later if you don't know it, then do let us know, because it's really important that if you're late arriving, we can give you the assistance that you need to settle in and join the university comfortably. But actually, if you're too late, it could even be a problem regarding enrolling into class. So just let us know, and we'll discuss that with you should that be the case. But if you're preparing early, preparing on time, and we are on time right now, it's fine, then there shouldn't be issues of late arrivals. Okay, so you've met all your conditions, you've applied for your visa with your CAS, you've got your visa, you've booked your ticket, it's time to pack the bags, or maybe I should say bag. Do pack light. I think this is one top tip that lots of students who have studied overseas remember with a bit of an embarrassed laugh. They remember how much they packed, and then realize that they packed way too much stuff. You will buy more stuff here. There are lots of shops very nearby the campus, as you will find out, and they sell lots of things really cheaply, and it's much more convenient to not pack your bags and pay excess baggage and break your bag and your back getting here. The classic thing is bedding. Students often like to pack lots of bedding because it's comfortable and it's theirs, and then they've got no room for any clothes or anything else, but the bedding is very cheap and nearby available. Please remember that only one large suitcase per student will actually fit on the coach for the airport pickup. More about that later. So really do use that as your guide. Don't think multiple cases or bags. Just be ruthless and make it condense it down to one large suitcase. That's much more practical for all people. Okay, this is the bit that confuses people in Malaysia. Plymouth is much milder and warmer than in the north of the UK, but you won't call it warm or mild at all, I'm sure. It will feel cooler or colder to you, initially at least. So students, when they come from a very warm country arriving to live in the United Kingdom, will find it's a bit cooler. So do prepare some clothes to help you in that scenario. So a warm jumper or a couple of those, a nice warm coat. But don't bring lots and lots of those, because we have lots and lots of those available here in the UK. And you don't want to fill your bag just with that. You kind of have to prepare for all seasons, sometimes even in the same day. This morning it was windy and rainy, now it's sunny here in Plymouth. So this is the kind of thing you deal with. It's quite good fun, but as I said, have some warm clothes available, but not too many. So there's other things that we could tell you about packing. There's a lot more guidance on our website on the International Student Advice page. So go to look at that page and you can see the link later, and you'll get a lot more detailed advice on what you can might want to think about bringing. But I think it's important also to think about your carry-on baggage, not just your suitcase, but in your carry-on you must make sure that you've got important documents or items that you might need to lay your hand on quite quickly. Not only because it might be when you're entering the country at immigration, but also just in case your suitcase goes walkabouts, which sometimes happens. It's very rare, but occasionally a suitcase disappears for a few hours or a day, and you don't want something important in that suitcase. So things like some currency, have access to some cash, or traveller's checks. The suggestion we have is about 300 British pounds. That's fine. You could go a slightly different amount, but that's okay. It's strongly advised that you have travel or personal insurance when you're going overseas, and that's usually done in your country, and we can talk about that if you have queries, but it's good to have any insurance documents with you. It's really important to have your offer letter from the university or print out of the CAS statement, so it just proves at immigration, in case there's questions, there probably won't be, but if there are questions, you can show you have the documentation to support while you are in country. If you have any prescription medicine, it's useful to have a letter from your doctor. That will help you when you're here. Proof of your financial support. So again, as with the academic documents or university offer letter, have the financial proof such as your bank statement to hand in your carry-on baggage. Make sure you know where we are in Plymouth. Make sure you have our address of the institution and where you're going to be staying. I know it's obvious, but occasionally people might forget, and it's useful just to have it in case you travel differently from the coach, or in case someone at immigration asks. And then, of course, if you're not taking our welcome meet and greet coach, then you need to prepare your onward journey from Heathrow or whichever airport to Plymouth. So you'll probably have done the tickets already for that, so make sure you've got those, or at least know what route you're going to be taking so that you can more easily buy those tickets when you arrive. But I think it is much, much more straightforward if you're a new student to the UK and a new student to Plymouth to actually get on our airport meet and greet coach. The service runs from Heathrow Airport, so make sure you're looking at flights coming into Heathrow, and you see the dates of these coaches, September 11th and 12th this year. And those are timed specifically such that when you get on the coach, you arrive to Plymouth, then you'll be in Plymouth, you'll have a rest, and then you'll be ready to join the International Student Orientation Program, which is running that week. So it's a really well-timed thing, and of course it's free of charge, so that's definitely the cheapest way that you can get from the airport to Plymouth. And it's good because there will be student ambassadors who will be on board on the coach with you, so you can chat with them on the way down, and of course there will be other students from anywhere in the world, and then you can make some friends and chat with them en route as well. So there's no stress, there's nothing to worry about, and there's no fee, but you must book a seat. So we need to know how many seats and how many coaches to make available. Therefore, the link you can see on this screen shows you where you can read all about the orientation program, and from that link is the booking a place link as well. And it's open now. So you've flown to the UK, you've landed in the UK, you've got your bags, you've got in through immigration, you've found the coach, you're on the coach, and you're heading to Plymouth. But where is it? Some of you might know, some of you might not. It's fair enough. I've studied overseas, and sometimes you don't really know where you are until you are there. So here is a map of the UK. Here's Plymouth. It's in southwest England. It's going to be about a 4-hour coach ride from Heathrow, something like that. So that's a little bit further from the capital city, but actually that's really good news in terms of cost of living. If you're going from central London to Plymouth, it's actually just 3 hours on the fast train. We are a small-ish city of 270,000 people. We're right by the sea, so you can see pictures of the sea a lot on our presentations, and you can go to the sea as much as you want. It's a short walk away from the campus. We are, as a city, we're full of students. There's lots and lots and lots of students from all over the world as well, not just British, but lots of British too. It's a really convenient city, and I think the Malaysian Student Society students might tell you a little bit about that too. You can walk many, many places in the city. It's definitely a lot cheaper than London in terms of living cost. I used to live there. I spent most of my money on accommodation and most of the rest of my money on transportation. And both those things are much easier and cheaper in Plymouth. So that's good news. And of course, Plymouth is always sunny. If you believe all the photographs in this presentation, you will believe that Plymouth is always sunny. Of course, we are lying, but we work in marketing, so that's what we do. Okay, I'm not going to go into too much detail of the campus because you're going to see that soon, but it looks something like this. And yes, you've noticed it's always sunny. I told you that. So we have at the top picture, almost in the center, right next to the Explore with Plymouth University wordings, is the library. So that's an important one for you to familiarize yourself with. And that's open 24/7, 365, so you could study any time of the day or night, even at 3 AM on January 1st, if you want. Please don't, but you could. So that's a really important space to use. We have numerous other public spaces and open spaces for you to study. You don't have to just do that study in the library. The whole campus is Wi-Fi connected anyway. There are 8 cafes on campus, at least. I think I've stopped counting at 8, there might be more. The building that you can see just under the Explore with Plymouth University sign is a really important building. That's called the Roland Levinsky Building, or RLB for short. In there we have a cinema, we have some lecture theatres, we have some teaching space and design space and studios, we have an art gallery, we have a careers and work and employment advice centre, we have a study advice centre as well about how to improve your learning skills. But most importantly, we have our International Student Advice Office, so more about them in a moment, but that's a really important building to know where it is on campus. It's also very handy because if you cross the street from that building, you walk across the street, and in about 2 minutes of walking, you're in the main shopping mall of the city. So I don't know if that's good or bad for you, depending on your shopping habits, but it is very, very close. So there's lots of other buildings on the campus, including some of our accommodation, but you can look at more of that online, and we will of course give you a campus tour when you arrive. Accommodation. So many of you have already applied for accommodation or know what you're doing at this stage. Some of you may still be in the process of applying. So that's really a case by case, and sometimes these questions about accommodation may come up, but we might have to answer those case by case depending on where you are with your application towards accommodation. If you haven't finalized your accommodation yet, the first thing I say is really don't panic. There's lots of really good accommodation in Plymouth. It's just about finding which is the right choice for you. Broadly speaking, there's on-campus or off-campus, halls or private student accommodation like a house or an apartment. Mostly depends on location and cost. So depending on where you want to be and how much you wish to spend, that will probably narrow down your choices. So if you haven't finalized that, it's worth doing the research at this point now and make your final application in the next couple of weeks or so. So probably the next couple of weeks, yeah, 2 weeks. Again, there's a website, a web page for our accommodation as a good start point, but any further questions you can message us today or email us afterwards and we can point you in the right direction. The good news is there's lots of really good accommodation in Plymouth. So I mentioned this office before. This is the most important place on campus, and I say that not just because 2 people who work in that office are sitting right next to me right now, over there. So the International Student Advice Office is in the RLB, the Roland Lewinsky building that I showed you before, and it is the fabulous office that arranges these airport pickups, the welcome and orientation events and program that you will take part in September. They include social activities, get to know people, get to know your way around the campus, the city, how to arrange bank account opening and how to sign up to various things, clubs or societies or medical centre, just all the how to live in the UK stuff that you're going to need to know. These guys will provide it for you, and they're really friendly too. So that's quite handy. And you have indeed seen a picture already with Kath and Angie on the right of the picture, who are sitting with me today. So if any questions that you may have are pertinent to them, they will jump in and help me and correct me where I go wrong. But effectively, you really do need to look at their part of our website before you fly. If you do nothing else, apart from maybe apply for your visa, oh yeah, and get accommodation, then make sure you look at their ISA page. So International Student Advice, it's on the bottom of that page there. Okay, so you've flown, you've landed, you've come to Plymouth, you've taken part in the welcome orientation events, you're familiar with the campus, you've enrolled and started class now, and you're actually going to class. Let's not forget that that's why you're here. But what else is there for you? What else will you do? Well, you'll hear of so many different things, and more from our Student Society team in a moment. But something just that I would mention to students is the Student Union. A lot of students coming from overseas typically have not got too close to the Student Union because they think, oh, that's more a British student thing. That's fine, but actually it's for all students. It's run by students for students, and there are even International Student Union connecting students who are involved with the running of the union from an international student's perspective. So you can get advice. There are cafes in there, bars, there are clubs, there are events there. We have many, many, many clubs and societies at Plymouth University, including some fun ones like the Harry Potter Society, an underwater hockey club, and which I don't even know what that is, and lots of other academic things, serious things, and lots of silly things too. So you can find ways to meet people outside of your classroom and outside of your apartment or your accommodation, and really find your way and settle into the university and do something to assist your studies or just do something fun. As I mentioned, we have a cinema, theatre and art gallery on campus. We have a gym and a sports hall on campus. We don't have an Olympic swimming pool on campus, but it is very nearby. You can cycle there in about 10-15 minutes, or there's a short bus or about a 25-minute walk to an Olympic standard indoor swimming pool where British Olympic athletes even train and which students can swim in for free, which is nice. We have lots and lots of water sports, lots and lots of outdoor activities. We have volunteering clubs, tons of things, and because we are next to the shopping mall and the city centre, like literally across the street, then all the shopping-y, going-outy type things are available to you very easily. So that's the stuff that I would say about student life. But actually, I think it's much more useful that you hear about student life and the practicalities from students from Malaysia who are here doing just that. So it gives me pleasure at this point to welcome on board Rosanna. Rosanna is one of our students here in Plymouth who is part of the Malaysian Student Society. She's going to lead off and talk about this particular slide about getting around in Plymouth, and then we'll also meet Matt and Dylan in due course. Rosanna, are you there?
Yep. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm sure you're eager to know how to get around Plymouth. It's really simple. Don't forget to always wear a hooded raincoat or jacket. You know, umbrellas may work in Malaysia, but in Plymouth, it might be broken by strong wind and blown away. So as Daniel said, every place is walking distance. When you study in the UK, you will learn to build your stamina by walking as opposed to, driving around to get to places in Malaysia. You'll be glad to hear that the biggest shopping center, which is called Drake Circus, is right across the university. You'll find shop outlets like H&M, River Island, and Primark. And as you exit Drake Circus, you will see an array of shops and cafes like McDonald's, Nando's, Tesco, Sports Direct. Everything is located there. Plymouth also has places like the whole waterfront and the Barbican, which are 15 minutes walk from the university. There's the famous Smeaton Tower, which you have seen in the first slide. The Hoe is a really, really big open space with a view of the sea, nice in the summer for you to hang out with your friends. And the Barbican, on the other hand, has lots of restaurants and a boat and ferry ride that you can take to go to like Mount Edgecombe or Mountbatten, which is really, really beautiful. The University Medical Center and gym are located within the campus, so you don't have to worry. If you want to do grocery shopping, you just have to pop into town. The local supermarkets are called Sainsbury's, Iceland, and Tesco, which are at a street called Armada Way. Marks and Spencer's is a more high-end grocery store inside Drake Circus. There are also a few gyms around Plymouth. The most popular gym is called The Gym, which is a 10-minute walk from the university halls of residences. Besides that, there is True Gym, which is on Exeter Street, and it's a 5-minute walk from St. Teresa or St. Thomas, which are two halls of residences for first years. If you live near Mutley Plain, which is another town center opposite of the university, it's like a 3-minute bus ride from the uni, especially if you get allocated to a hall of residence called Alexandra Works. Don't worry, Pure Gym is right next to it. If you're unkeen on walking, there are splendid taxi services. If you want to get to places that are further, like the View Cinema or Prism nightclub, then you must save these taxi numbers. It's honestly very easy to remember. So both start with 01752, which is standard, then 666 or 222. Or 252525. My first choice personally would always be need a cab. But if that's full, especially on Friday and Saturday nights, just dial Tower Cab. So moving on to bus services. The main bus stop is Royal Parade, which is a 4-minute walk as you exit Drake Circus. It's opposite House of Fraser, and it's quite a long road that has many bus stops. If you want to go to places like Royal William Yard, which is like another harbor where you can take ferry services and also has delicious fine dining restaurants, then you can take bus numbers 34 or 34A. For Darford Hospital, you can take any 42 buses, like 42A, B, and C. For bus times and routes, you can just Google them. Any destination you wish to go to, Google will give you the correct bus times. Next, we have a main train station on North Road. It's a 7-minute walk from the university. I've tested this, trust me, as I always make it 2 minutes before the train departs. So this train station has lots of train services to basically the whole of England. You can go to Manchester, Leeds, London, Oxford, Bristol, Exeter, anywhere. Just make sure you apply for a rail card, which gets you 1/3 off the usual ticket fee. And always book at least 3 weeks in advance for cheaper train tickets. For us university students, you can apply for the 16 to 25-year-old rail card. It costs £30 for 1 year. But if you have a Santander 123 student account, so Santander is a bank, you can get a rail card for free and it will be valid for 4 years. So if you want more information about this, there's a Santander branch in the center of the university campus. So just pop in there and ask the staff about it. Also, if you want to book train tickets, you can either buy it at the counter or online at trainline.com. Plymouth also has a coach station, so coaches take you to other cities in England just like the train, but it is much cheaper. Only thing is that it is a longer journey. The coach station is on Armada Way, just like Sainsbury's and Iceland, like I said before. Yeah, so if you ever find yourself lost, don't be afraid to ask. People in Plymouth are really friendly, or you can just ask one of our committee members of the Malaysian Society. We'll be more than happy to help you. Next slide, please.
Hello, hello. Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm also from the Plymouth Malaysian Society, and I'll be talking about socializing and making the most out of your social life whilst you're in university. So one of the main ways to make the most out of your social life is to, of course, join a club and a society. And as Daniel conveniently aforementioned, there are a lot of societies within the university. There's more than 120 of them. And as Daniel mentioned before, some of them range from very common to very obscure types, like the Harry Potter Society and stuff like that. So on the 21st of September 2017, there will be a club and society fair. And this is a day where the representatives from all the clubs and societies would basically set up a stall and try and promote their society and try and convince you to join them. And it's a great opportunity that day to just go around, have a look at the sheer variety, see what you're interested in, see what you like, and you know, just sign up. Many clubs and societies will have taster sessions, free sessions, so that you can see how the society functions. And this is important because eventually you'll have to pay a membership fee for that. So it's so taster sessions are quite important for that. And yeah, as the slide shows, almost all societies charge for membership fees, some don't, and they range in prices as well. So you don't want the money to go to waste, so please go for the taster sessions to make an informed decision. That's all from me. Dylan?
Hello. Check. Yep. So of course, with so many societies here in Plymouth, it's also sort of really good advice to kind of be mindful about the time you have. Of course, you know, you're here in university to study mainly, but of course, having like this society and sports clubs, life can kind of balance things out for you. So whenever when you go to the fair, as Matthew mentioned, you know, it's very tempting to just join every single society you see. You know, like Assassin's Club, you've got Pokemon Club, all these really interesting type of societies, Airsoft, and then you have like sports clubs as well, like badminton, basketball. So it's quite a big pitfall for like freshers to kind of be like all gung-ho and say like, yeah, I'll go for these societies, I'll have the time. And then you realize actually a lot of the sessions that they do kind of clash, and then you don't get to make some of the things. You go to some of the sports clubs events and it's packed and you don't get to play. So just be mindful about these things. And also don't let it eat up sort of like your study time as well. When you go to the fairs and when you sign up, of course, you need to you need to register your email as well onto the UPSU website, which is the student union website. And this is where you kind of set up your account and have your payment options set up as well, so that when you go for the fair and you sign up, you can immediately kind of log in online, pay the fees to be a member, and you can then enjoy the perks without any of the hassle of delaying it further. And that's that's all for me, I think. Next is Rosanna again.
Yeah, so as Dylan said, time management is very important in uni. So most clubs and societies have their own Facebook or Twitter pages for their post their future events. Also, you can download the UPSU app on your phone. So just search UPSU on Google Play or Apple Store. The app should be the first one called the SU with a dark blue logo. So there you can see what events are coming up so you can manage your time. So there are drinking events if you're interested where, let's say, netball club, they go for a bar crawl or to the club every Wednesday apart from having trainings every Saturday. If you prefer indoor and non-drinking activities, clubs and societies do organize them, like baking together to fundraise for charity, or some clubs do tournaments against one another. Besides that, definitely consider being a committee member, usually after your first year. That way you can build your CV by learning skills such as responsibility, leadership, teamwork, and being very patient. Yep, next slide, please.
Hello, it's me again. So today I'm going to talk about food essentially, which is, I'm pretty sure, the #1 thing on everyone's mind at the moment. So you'd be happy to know that there are a good variety of supermarkets and Oriental stores within the city, and most, if not all of them, are situated within walking distance from the main campus, so about 10 minutes walk. So major supermarkets like Sainsbury's, Tesco's, they roughly have the same price range. But for those in a budget, or I must say a tighter budget, I can recommend Aldi's or Lidl's because they tend to sell their products at a lower price. Right, and for those with specific foods, dietary requirements like vegetarians, most restaurants would cater to vegetarians. They will have veggie options in their menus. For vegans, however, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure whether you're that lucky. I am aware that there are 2 vegan restaurants in town, but I'm not so sure about the vegan situation in the city at the moment, I'm afraid. For Muslim students who have to have or who need halal meat, unfortunately, the major supermarkets, they don't serve halal meat. But that's not to say that there aren't any halal meat around. There are Asian supermarkets, there are specific Middle Eastern Asian supermarkets that do sell halal meats. Most restaurants, however, they don't sell halal meat as well, but there are Middle Eastern Asian restaurants around that do sell halal dishes. I guess what I'm just trying to say is that don't expect your McDonald's or your Nando's to have halal meat. But there are great seafood options, I must say. If you like seafood, you're at the right place. And when you go out, you can expect to spend around £10 a dish. That's pretty standard wherever you go in England, I would say, besides London. But that's pretty much all I have to say about this. Next slide.
All right. If you can hear me, put your hands up. I'm joking, I can't see you guys. So in terms of success, being successful in university, really just go back to the basics. First thing, time management. When you're in university, if you're the kind of person that likes to draw and design your own diary, I suggest you do that. But if you're lazy like me, there's a lot of resources online, including the Apple App Store and Google Store as well. That's free. There's an app that's called My Student Life. I find that really useful. It's colorful. You can key in your academic years. You can key in your terms. You can put in your classes, and it kind of just organizes everything for you. You can put tasks there as well on that app. But if not, you know, the university will provide you with an email as well on the Microsoft's website. And using that email, you can also organize your own schedules and everything there. If not, Google has it as well. So there's plenty of options. It's also very essential to note that you have to stick to your deadlines. And if you know anything, if there's a time set for you to meet someone or whatever, be it socially or for your academic life, make sure you meet that deadline or meet that scheduled time. It's no longer Malaysian timing. You know, traffic jams is no longer a valid excuse, and just be wary of time when you're in Britain. Other than that, essential student tools. So when you're coming into university from like college or school, you know, you don't really have that many opportunities to do referencing. So two main ones to think about: Vancouver and Harvard. And you will learn more about this when you're there in university. But some things that might be useful for you to think about now, just look it up on Google. Sites like Cite This For Me, that's CITE This For Me website, which provides you with sort of like a very easy tool to use to reference your essays in the future. Or you can also look up our university website and other university websites as well, which will provide more information about how to reference. So in case if like the website or apps doesn't do that for you. Other than that, Plymouth University also provides some free apps that you can use, especially for like statistics, if you're in business, economics, or even like science degrees. So I think free softwares that Plymouth University provides are like Minitab and IBM SPSS as well. Those two are quite advanced statistical tools, so just be wary of stuff like requiring extra help. And if you do need help with these softwares or any statistics, Plymouth University has a branch in their library as well, which is 24/7, which provides help for you to go through your statistics that you need, and also to teach you about the softwares that are available. Apart from that, you know, once you have the tools, once you're good with time management, you know, don't be afraid to get help. There are a lot of people that can help you in university. So as Daniel mentioned about the ISA, if you've got some sort of problems with your visas or problems with home or anything, your course itself will also provide pastoral tutors and academic tutors as well. And I believe within university there are also pastoral tutors anywhere. So I think religious help as well from the chaplaincy if you need them. So just, you know, don't be afraid to go and get help if you're struggling. Always just keep an open mind, and you know, with new friends there as well, you can always go to them whenever you feel lonely. And also healthcare. There's a GP on site on university, and it's very essential that you register with them the first thing you get to university. And if you're with the orientation team sometime in September, I believe that they do organize sort of like trips to the GP as well, and help you register with them. If not, just come to us, the committee members, and we'll come and help you out. Once that's done, you know, once you're settled, ready to face the big world, you know, be adventurous. Whatever interest that you have, just go for it. There's no points saying that you can't or don't have time for it. Of course, managing time, as mentioned, is very important. But you know, just be adventurous. You know, just go for it. Any clubs that you see that you might want to try out, any you know, sports that you want to try. There's like rugby, football, badminton. You know, just go for it. apart from that, more academic side of things as well. If you're thinking of doing extracurricular stuff, organizing projects, but don't have the funds for it, Plymouth University has this thing called the Roland Davinsky Fund that you can apply for. It's quite competitive, but it's also a good experience for you and good for your CV. Within the medical school and the biomedical science school as well, there's something called the Inspire Award if you're interested in research. All you have to do is apply for it and suggest a project. And if they like it, you get some funding to do your project over the summer. And also, I believe Plymouth University has their own Plymouth Award as well. It's more extracurricular than academic. This Plymouth Award, you can look it up online. If you go to the Plymouth University website, and basically they get you to do a few things, including it's basically completing 80 hours of activities from personal health and well-being, your working life, volunteering, cultural and social awareness, and also supporting university community. You have to choose 3 of these categories, go through at least 20 hours per category, and at the end of it, you write a reflective piece. It's quite good for your CV. A friend of mine has done it, but of course, time management, remember that. National awards to think about as well. There's quite a good program that I've done, Duke of Edinburgh program. It's quite fun, gets you out and about. If you're interested in badminton and you want to improve on it, by practicing badminton itself, it's already contributing to that Duke of Edinburgh program. And then they get you to go out to the nature side of Britain as well, go camping in the cold, which is quite fun. And once you've done that, winter will never faze you anymore. So yeah, lots of opportunities for you to look towards too as well, and lots of clubs and societies that can really boost your CVs, and joining committees. Come join us next time. And also, once you've done all that time management, you've got your tools, you've got your help, you've been adventurous, and it's all about finding balance, really. So first year, usually, impossible. You will not find your balance. But by the end of second year, third year, you probably will. It's quite hard to find that balance, considering that it'll be kind of like the first time you're far away from home. And it's quite demanding to having to learn quickly about balance. But just be flexible and just know yourself, really. Yeah, I think that's all for me.
Thank you. Thanks, Dylan. Passing back to me, Daniel, now. So thanks, Dylan. Thanks, Rosanna. Thanks, Matthew, as well. That's really quite fabulous. It's really, really good to hear advice coming from students who are living it right now. They're telling you how it is much more up to date than I could tell you from my dim and distant student days 20 years ago. So it's really, really good to hear up-to-the-minute advice based on the technologies and the systems at the university. But also, I really love those top tips about finding what's right for you, finding that balance. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you don't know something, don't just sit in silence. There's always somebody around at the university to give you the advice that you need. So knowing who to ask, where they are, that's all the kind of thing you're going to find out when you're here doing the orientation, but also you will always have advice throughout the year to support you. So I really appreciate the advice of Rosanna, Matthew, and Dylan, so thanks very much to you guys. We are nearly at the point to wrap up the presentation itself, really. Just as a reminder, we've got a few more minutes now where we're going to take some questions. If you've got any more urgent questions you haven't yet submitted, please submit them now. I've got a list of questions here I'm going to go through in a moment. Another reminder that we are recording this, so again, you can access the recording of this, which we can email out. You can then get hold of that and watch it again if you missed something, or pass it to a friend who you knew needs to learn it as well, because they're also coming to Plymouth, but they couldn't be here today. Okay, so before I forget, thanks again to everyone who's contributed so far. You've been amazing. And let's get stuck into these questions. There's quite a lot of them. We'll do our best. Some of these may be very specific to one person or one person's case, but some will be more generic. So in no particular order. So one question is, other than our qualifications, such as A-levels or results and IELTS results, what other documents do we need to submit? Well, actually, that's a very good question. I suspect that might be from a student who has yet to meet all their academic conditions. The great news is that the International Admissions Office here at Plymouth will always email an applicant exactly what their next stage is. And we do it stage by stage. So if you submit an application and you're missing some documents we need, we will email you to tell you which documents those are. When we get those, we will tell you if there's any more documents or not, and then we make the offer, and then we take it to the next stage. But in terms of academic documents, it really is your qualifications that you've completed, once they are completed, and your English proficiency. IELTS being most common, but we also recognize the SPM 1119 for English as well, depending on the grade. So in answer to that question, I think if you have not had an email from admissions telling you exactly which documents you need, then I would like to look into that specifically. So you could maybe best way is to contact me. I'll make sure you have my email address. It is actually International Admissions email address. You can see it on your slide right now. That's actually even better than mine, but I'll give you mine as well. Okay, so I must make a note to email you with my email address later. Next question. How do we submit the tuition fee deposit? Well, actually, that's very connected to the previous question related to your admission and getting ready to join us in September. So the deposit is asked to be paid. We ask you to submit it once your academic conditions are already met, and at that point we do tell you how to do it, and it's usually via bank transfer. That's usually how it's done. But again, we only really give you details on that at the right time. We wouldn't put that out there right now for everyone, because sometimes students might submit a deposit before they've actually met the academic conditions, and that causes issues regarding transfer of funds around the world if you don't then meet your academic conditions. Sounds complex, but it's okay. It's per stage. So once academic conditions are met, we will email you instructions on tuition fee deposit. Another good question there. Here's an interesting one. Are things in Plymouth cheaper than over in Malaysia? Yes and no. In some respects, no. I've been to Malaysia many times, and I know sometimes I go into a supermarket and I see things that are cheaper. Other things, not so. Depends what you're talking and where you're going. There are certainly some shops in the UK which can be more expensive, but there are also very reasonable ones. And I think a lot of shops in the shopping mall do have quite discount and sale options, and online discounts as well for online shopping where it's delivered to you. They can be quite cheap. I want to see if there's anything in particular that's more expensive that my colleagues would say, that some students say, wow, that's really expensive, we wish we bought that at home and carried it with us. Anything in particular? Can't think of anything. I mean, it's one shop I'm almost hesitant to advise, but I don't know if anyone else wants to weigh in, but I think that Primark, or as we jokingly call it, Primani, here in Plymouth, is pretty handy because they do cheap clothes, especially if you're looking for a nice warm jacket, or suddenly it's cold and yours wasn't warm enough, or whatever, you just want another jacket. You can get that pretty cheaply. It's also really good to get bedding in there really cheaply, like an extra blanket or whatever you need. It won't perhaps be as cheap as in Malaysia, but it's cheaper than buying into Malaysia and paying excess baggage to bring it in, especially when the coach will only take one suitcase per student. So, like I said, pack what you need, and don't worry about what you can't pack. It's okay, it'll be available in Plymouth, and it need not be expensive. There are also second-hand stores or charity stores and markets where things can be cheaper than in the regular stores. So there's also a really good site called Gumtree, and another really good site called Free Cycle, where you can get things that are pre-loved, pre-used for very cheap prices, or nothing at all if it's the case of Free Cycle. So there are ways to live less expensively than just going into a high street shop every day. Good question. Okay, is the airport pickup coach first come, first served? So if I don't book it in time, if it's full, is it too late? Well, no, because we will put extra coaches on, but of course we do need to know with enough advance warning how many students are going to need the coach so that we can book the coaches. So all I would say is if you want to be on the coach, make sure you do book the seat ASAP. If by any reason you're not going to take the coach, you've changed your mind, you're arriving in a different way, do let us know that you're not going to take that seat, because that seat might be useful for another student, and it might affect how many coaches we book. Thank you. What type of clothes should we wear? Here, in terms when you're outdoors, of course, all the clothes for all the weather that we might get in the UK. So 4 seasons in one day. I think people said a hooded jacket or a hooded sweatshirt is a very good idea. I think Rosanna said that. That's very good advice. I do have an umbrella occasionally in Plymouth, but it doesn't last long. It blows inside out. That's the UK thing. So actually a hoodie is much better. In terms of at home, when you're in your house, wear what you like. Of course, in the winter, you might still feel it's cold, but accommodation has central heating, so you can crank it up and wear your t-shirt, or you can be more environmentally aware and don't crank it up too high and still wear a jumper, but you'll be fine. Good question. If there is a flight delay and we miss the coach, what happens? Well, if another coach is available, as we have more coaches departing at different times, if you have availability on that, we'll get you on that without any issue. If your flight is delayed such that you have missed those coaches or there are no spaces available, there will be student ambassadors there who can give you guidance. Additional to that, it's a really good idea that you keep the contact details of the university. So, for example, those who have worked with myself, Daniel Rowe in the international office, you'll have any emails from me. You can look my name up on the internet. You can see my contact details on our internet, and that will include my mobile number. So if you were stuck at Heathrow and you said, I've missed the coach, I don't know what to do, we will find a way. It's a very good question, but I would also like to reassure you it's not going to be something that's going to panic me or to think, oh my gosh, this student will be lost. We will find a way to support you. I have some further advice from my colleagues.
Just going to add, we send all the students who are on the coach information a few days before you travel, and we'll include an emergency number that will be manned 24 hours those days when the coaches are travelling. So there will be a number that you can call.
Thank you. Thanks for that information, Cass. So yes, just to reiterate, when you have booked your seat on the coach, you will be given further information, including that emergency number. So it's a great question. It's often the case that flights might be delayed a little bit, and then you've got to get your bags and get through immigration. So we know that there's going to be a little bit of flexibility about what time a coach is going to leave. We won't leave if we know that students are nearly there. But this is something that I understand is a worry for students. But to reassure you, this is still definitely the best way you can get from Heathrow to Plymouth. Do you recommend buying clothes in Malaysia or over there for the weather in Plymouth? But I think we sort of covered that a little bit. Have a couple of warm things initially, like 1 or 2 warm jumpers and maybe 1 bigger warm coat. After that, you can adjust and add more as you think you need to. Depends how much space there is in your bag or how much weight allowance you have left in your bag. If you're the kind who packs lots of books, then you won't have much weight to put anything else in. If you're not going to pack many books, and you probably don't need to, then maybe you have a bit more room. But I would say there are definitely great clothing options in the UK, and it's not as expensive as you might think. It's not all high-end prices. For those who cook, what about utensils? What about knives or saucepans or anything like that? Certainly important message, don't bring any sharp things, don't bring any knives or anything on your flight in any way, of course, suitcase or carry-on. And actually any kind of cooking tool or utensil or pots or pans, we've got them here. Accommodation often has them in their facilities that you can use. In cases where that isn't the case, or there's something particular that you need, you can get it here. And again, that is relatively reasonably priced, but more importantly, you should not be packing those or traveling with those types of things. Get them here. Are there shops selling Asian goods or ingredients in the area? I think that was covered by my colleagues in the presentation, so thanks, and the answer is yes, there are. I go to them myself. Just an additional point that I wanted to make regarding restaurants. I know the question of halal did come up and that was dealt with, but also it's worth me just reiterating there are quite a lot of veggie and vegan options within typical restaurants. So the halal meat issue aside, There are always veggie and vegan options in many restaurants, and fish options as well. So I think it's worth, if you have further questions about halal, as the slide mentioned, we can talk with Rosanna in the Plymouth Malaysian Society directly, but I do think there are lots of great options for food and reasonably priced in Plymouth too. And connected to food, is there anywhere in Plymouth where we can buy particular Asian dish ingredients such as intestines or innards? Yes, Asian supermarkets do sell them here. They probably would be frozen, however, rather than fresh, but you can buy them. Next question, is there Uber in Plymouth? Not yet. Do you feel happy or sad about that? I don't know. Sometimes I like Uber, sometimes I don't. I think it's something that might come in future maybe, but there isn't Uber right now. But there are lots of taxi companies and they're pretty straightforward. You will also find, with the scale of Plymouth not being too big, that you don't even need a taxi that often unless you're doing stuff in the evening or at night. Well, some more questions here. I've got these questions are coming in live. It's a bit like in a news desk with these emergency bulletins. Is there any issues for students who are used to using toilets with the water washing facility rather than toilet paper? Well, in the UK we don't really have the water washing facility toilets, so you would more likely be needing to be used to a toilet paper situation. Wet wipes are often quite recommended in those situations too. Although some toilets will state that you should not put wet wipes down the toilet. They're stronger, they might block or break a toilet, but there's information about that on the packaging. I wouldn't worry too much, but yes, it is. It's not really a custom in the UK to have the water wash facility in the toilet, so it will be a change, but I think it's something that the students do get used to relatively quickly. Thank you for that question. Now I'm going to questions I've not seen at all. Let's see. Okay, so can we exchange contact details with other members of this webinar? I think the best thing to do is to contact us if you are willing to share your contact details, and then we know. In terms of the Malaysian Society, if you go to their Facebook page, it's an open page, and you can have a look and you can get further questions that way too. But we will, as long as students are happy to release their contact details, then we're able to release them, but we have to make sure that each individual student is happy that their contact details are shared. Yeah, so if you want to do that, please note that we can help you. So this is a question to the Plymouth Malaysian Society. What stuff do you recommend we bring from home that we can't get in Plymouth? Ooh, good question. Rosanna, Matt, Dylan, can you help?
That's a good question.
It is. I suppose that I suppose whenever I'm there, I do miss a lot of my sort of my instant noodles, my favorite mee goreng. You can find it in Oriental shops in Plymouth. However, they are crazy expensive, so I normally bring them over myself. And no, I think most of the things you'll be able to find. I think food, yeah, there are Asian restaurants you can where you can procure Asian recipes, and clothing. I would recommend to get it from there. That's my input.
Yeah. Well, you definitely can't get kuehs and some pastries, you know. But obviously, don't bring kuehs; they'll spoil before you even get them.
You can get frozen kuehs from Oriental shops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think you can get most of the things in Plymouth.
Okay, thanks guys. Yeah, it's very much a personal issue of what you really can't live without. When I'm in Malaysia, I usually buy a really big tin of Milo, because you can buy Milo here, but you normally would buy a smaller tin, and admittedly it's cheaper to get the bigger one in Malaysia and bring it in, but of course it's a baggage weight issue, and if you're packing to move for a year, then maybe a big tin of Milo is not a good idea because it's a lot of weight and space taken up. If you're going home at the Christmas break and you'd be coming back after that and you've not got such a big suitcase, then you've got the space for the Milo. But yeah, I think that's good advice from the guys. Thank you very much. Okay, this is another application-related issue about if we are submitting application documents directly or through our agent. The answer is it doesn't matter which way you submit them, but really if you have applied through an agent, it's probably more straightforward that you keep doing so, so we have the same communication channel. But again, when admissions send you an email telling you what your next stage of your application is, they will tell you how you can email those documents in. If you do it, not the agent, as long as we know it's still you, we can take it forward. Interesting question. I have to ask this one live of my colleagues. They've answered. Oh, that's really good. So the one question is, I'm bringing 2 medium-sized suitcases. Will this be okay for the coach? It can be okay, yes, but define medium-sized, define large. It gets a little bit difficult. It depends who else is on the coach that day and how much space there is. I don't really know how to definitely answer that. If you should switch it to a large one, ideally, just to avoid any issues. Or if you're not going to do that, the problem is, what's a medium suitcase? You know, that's tricky. I think one larger and one smaller, with the smaller one being small enough to double up as your carry-on, maybe. I think I'm stumped on that one. Yeah, if it was small enough to be, if it's small enough to be like a carry-on on the plane, then if it really couldn't fit in the hold, then it might fit up on the coach where you're sat, maybe above your head. So, yeah, that's about the best advice we can give on that one. But make sure those medium ones are not kind of large medium, because then we're going to struggle, and then it does cause a consternation if other students are. Think, well, why did they have 2? We're allowed 1. So have a think if you could get a large one, that might be easier. Is hand luggage classed as second luggage? Is that the question? Okay, so as we just said, yeah. So your carry-on is not your suitcase. What you carried onto the plane, we don't count that as your suitcase for getting on the coach. What is the Malaysian student population? I think on average we have about 30 new Malaysian students arriving each year, but into a variety of programs. So that might have some importance to you, but in terms of how many of those interact together, I don't know. Maybe that's something the Malaysian Society can answer better than I can, because some may be in their subject area, or possibly even on a different site, or more maybe together. What does that mean to you guys in terms of how many Malaysian students you interact with?
I would say...
Well, so far... Yeah, sorry, go on.
Thanks. I think I would say that Malaysian students don't necessarily see a lot of each other all the time. I would say that the Malaysian students are mostly spread out amongst the courses, and we don't see each other very much. And I think that's one of the reasons why we set up the Malaysian Society, so that we could just centralize everyone together, and we could get everyone together essentially. Rosanna?
Yeah, so far we've got around 30 members of the Malaysian Society this year. But I did ask the international office some time ago that they had around 54 students in the university. So we're still waiting to see like how many people. How we can, reach out to the rest of the Malaysian students in Plymouth.
And I guess
on a daily basis. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So on a daily basis, it's quite different from students who study in London, where you see Malaysians every single day. I believe Matthew, Rosanna, and myself, we barely see any Malaysians apart from the times when we have sort of a Malaysian Society event. But yeah, it's not very common to see Malaysians in Plymouth, I'd say.
I would add to that and say that when you go to study in another country, you will almost by definition be in quite a different environment in terms of the nationalities of people studying with you. There will be British students around you quite a lot, but there will be nationalities from other student nationalities around as well. So you'll be mixing with other students, not just exclusively with Malaysians or mainly with Malaysian students. You can indeed seek other Malaysian students out, and the best way to do that is via the Plymouth Malaysian Society. But you won't be in that situation where you're just all Malaysians together. And you know, that's part of the thing when you travel overseas. It will be that different. But it's not to say that you'll be alone or there won't be people near you who can understand what you're going through, because there are other Malaysian students here, and indeed one of my colleagues sitting right next to me, Angie, in the International Advice Office, is from Malaysia herself. So she can also give you advice from her perspective as well, as a Malaysian living and working in the United Kingdom. Fair to say?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Angie. I think we're going to round up with one final question, and it's very important to me, as you can tell, how much is a haircut? Is getting a haircut expensive? Well, it could be, depending on where you go. If you go to a really posh salon, you might pay £30+ before they even look at you. But actually, I think it's more realistic to say a gentleman's haircut. A man's haircut is approximately sort of as cheap as £6, as expensive as £20, maybe more average like £10. I don't pay more than £11, as you can probably tell. And I think women's haircuts start from about £15. Actually, my wife had someone come to our house and do a haircut, and she's probably not embarrassed if I say that it didn't cost very much. It was about £12.50. So there, but it may be £15 plus, but it can go quite a lot higher if you're doing colouring tints or big changes of style. What do I know about hairdressing? Clearly nothing, but it can be really expensive then. So I think if you're going to do anything major, have it done before you come. If you're just having a trim or small changes, then it's quite reasonable. You don't have to think about crazy expensive.
They've also asked, can they cut their own hair?
And can you cut your own hair? If you can cut your own hair, I would not stop you. Yeah. In fact, if you're good at cutting hair, maybe you can go into business. No, I'm not allowed to give advice about working. That's very, very wrong. I got to the end of the webinar and I said the wrong thing. Okay, listen, thank you so much, guys. It's been really, really useful for our point of view to see these questions, to know what kind of things you need to know, because that will help us, of course, advise you now, but advise future students on future webinars. So I really appreciate you have taken the time to put these very thoughtful questions to us. I hope we have answered them okay. If we've missed anything, or if you think of more questions, then reach out to us. We emailed you all instructions on how to join this webinar. Joshua and myself were listed on there. So if you get back to us via those emails, then you know that you'll be reaching out to us with any further questions that you may have. If there's nothing else from any of my colleagues, then I will just say thank you to everyone who's attended today, to Josh to put this together, to Kath and to Angie for supporting me with the questions particularly, to Rosanna, to Matthew, to Dylan, to being absolutely fabulous, but of course to you, our students, for listening and tuning in today. And next time I'll see you will be in Plymouth. So thank you very much. We're going to sign off now, and at that point we will send out the recording. Thank you. Bye-bye.